So the M-103 hearings are off and running regarding Liberal MP Iqra Khalid's so-called anti-Islamophobia motion. And after only a few days of testimony, things are already getting downright disturbing. First, just consider the choice to head up the committee, none other than good old Hetty Fry. In a way, she's the perfect choice to chair a committee to combat a problem regarding intolerance that does not exist because, well, Fry herself is an expert when it comes to alerting Canadians to problems of intolerance that do not exist. I turned the clock back some 16 years ago when Fry, who was then Minister of State for Multiculturalism, lamented how so many people in Prince George were burning crosses on their lawns, KKK style. Here's what she said verbatim in the House of Commons in March 2001. Mr. Speaker, we can just go to British Columbia and Prince George where crosses are being burned on lawns as we speak. Oh, it was certainly a shocking revelation. I mean, cross burnings in BC in the 21st century as opposed to cross burnings in the Deep South in the 19th century. How could this possibly happen? Well, the short answer is it never did. The accusation of burning crosses was news to the mayor, the RCMP, local politicians, police. Everybody residing in Prince George had no idea what Fry was talking about. Originally, she modified her accusations, saying the cross burnings were not happening as we speak, but rather these incidents had occurred recently. But Fry had to finally apologize outright because nobody in Prince George could ever recall a single solitary instance of anyone ever burning a cross. It was all a figment of Fry's eerie imagination. So really, what better candidate to chair an Islamophobia committee? After all, we still don't have a definition of what Islamophobia is, which is quite disturbing, given the term Islamophobia was coined by the Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organization in the 90s as a means of advancing promotion for Sharia law. By the way, for anyone actually paying attention to the M-103 hearings, a very disturbing trend has emerged. Namely, I can't shake this vibe that far from being merely a feel-good, albeit toothless motion condemning discrimination, M-103 is really the foundation that might lead to censorship laws curtailing freedom of speech based on the hurt feelings of one particular group. The most disturbing testimony came from Michelle Junot-Katsuya, a former CSIS and RCMP officer. Here's what Junot-Katsuya said about Quebec media.
Radio hosts have been recognized guilty, if I may use the word, by their professional instances for bigotry, racism, Islamophobia, sexism, and even encouraging a violence against a certain group. What are we waiting to pull a license away from those guys?
He then went on to criticize what's known as so-called trash radio. This is the descriptor given to those Quebec radio stations that swing right of center. And get this former Mountie and CSIS agent, someone who in a different life was perhaps keeping his eyes peeled for those comprising the ranks of radical Islam, is now condemning Quebec radio stations that are critical of the Islamist agenda and saying that maybe they should perhaps have their licenses yanked for engaging in, drumroll please, Islamophobia. And don't think the Rebel got off scot-free either.
Would you perceive rebel media and sites of that nature to be amplifying the message of the extreme right on the Anglophone side?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Gee, I guess much like Quebec's so-called trash radio stations, we might need to be shut down too. It's all about keeping the peace, eh? Wouldn't want to incite a peace-loving group that is prone to violence if their sensibilities are offended. Exhibit A, any cartoons depicting a certain prophet. Bottom line, the stars are aligning, aren't they, folks? A committee headed up by a progressive who sees imaginary racism is listening to testimony from ex-law enforcement advocating that media outlets that go too far in their criticism of Islam should perhaps be consigned to the slaughterhouse of political correctness. When it comes to the future of free speech in Canada, hey, what could possibly go wrong? For the Rebel.media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Like what you just saw? Then click subscribe below and never miss another Rebel video.